My boyfriend Kyler and I are both from an orphanage. 2 years ago, he was identified by the K family as their long-lost young master who had been missing for over 20 years. From then on, our statuses were as different as heaven and earth. He despised me for having no status or background, calling me an orphan despised by everyone, and after seamlessly integrating into my life, he made things difficult for me in every way possible. Later, when I unexpectedly saw Rita, I felt strangely close to her. Kyler, however, panicked. I rang the doorbell of the villa, and a round-faced girl wearing a loose plaid shirt opened the door. I recognized the shirt immediately as the limited edition one I had bought for Kyler on his 20th birthday after working part-time for over 3 months. "Hello, who are you looking for?" Her voice was sweet and soft, with a slight lilt at the end. "Hello. Is Kyler here?" I slowly snapped out of my daze and almost forgot to speak. "Kyler, someone's looking for you." The girl turned around and skipped into the villa. I peeked into the villa and saw that the entire floor was covered with fluffy pink carpet. Coming to my senses, I realized that the girl's feet were bare, without shoes. Hearing the sound, Kyler came downstairs and gently stroked the girl's long hair, his voice as smooth as jade. "You idiot, be careful you don't fall." The girl wrinkled her nose and made a face at him, reminding him that there were strangers at the door. As Kyler turned his head, the indulgence on his face was mixed with shock and irritation. "Sis, what are you doing here?" This is my sister who grew up with me at the orphanage." He tried to cover up the girl's questioning eyes with lies, his poor acting betraying a hint of panic. When Kyler grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door, I realized that tears had silently slipped down to the corner of my mouth, leaving a faint salty taste. "Yumi, what are you doing here?" Kyler's tone was unmistakably accusatory and reproachful. I opened the post he had shared on his social media. The photo showed him slightly tipsy, looking irresistibly attractive. The caption read, "I think I might need a hangover soup right now." The address attached below was none other than this villa, A07. Kyler slapped his forehead in frustration, saying nothing by way of explanation, letting the cold wind dry the tears on my face. I looked down at the warm soup in my hands and the red, swollen scars on my arm from learning how to make soup, and finally realized that in the world of the rich, sincerity really doesn't matter at all. Perhaps she had been outside too long, or maybe the girl was just too clingy, but she poked her little face out the door and urged Kyler to hurry back and blow out the candles. "Call me Kynan from now on. After all, I'm not an orphan anymore. Our social statuses are too different, so I'm sure you understand better than I do why we can't get married." After saying that, he handed me a bank card as if he were an 18-year-old boy slipping me a love letter, then turned and walked away. He never asked if I wanted it or if I agreed. As he walked to the door, he smiled and picked up the barefoot girl, gently tickling her nose and saying affectionately, "Be careful not to prick your toes." The wind today was so sharp that it made my eyes hurt. I returned to my 50-square-meter rental apartment in a daze. On the day Kyler was recognized by the K family, he was so happy he hugged me and spun me around in circles. "I finally have money. I don't have to live this poor life anymore." After he moved out of the rental house, he promised he would come back to pick me up, let me live in a big house, and live a good life. "Okay, Kyler, I'll wait for you." I waited for 2 years. What I got in return was the young master looking down on me for my lowly status and saying I wasn't good enough for him. But did he just find out I'm an orphan? Ding dong, a message shattered my fantasy. It was Kyler. I'd better pretend I don't know him. Dating an orphan is the stain on my life. I've never seen such a luxurious villa. I've also never seen such a heartless person. Don't disgust me. Knowing you is the biggest stain on my life. I didn't take the bank card. I threw it in the trash along with all his things from the rented room. I didn't numb myself with alcohol, nor did I fall into despair. I just went to work as usual and did what I could. I don't need him, but I regret wasting my youth. But there will always be someone who takes away my right to live. 3 days later, a new president was parachuted into the company. Looking at that familiar face, I realized that this company actually belonged to his family. His gaze swept past me, his eyes devoid of emotion. Kyler gave the company employees a warning on his first day on the job. Or rather, he gave it to me. Starting today and continuing through the end of the month, our company will be implementing performance evaluations. The bottom 3 employees will be laid off, so please be prepared. This month, I worked harder and more diligently than usual. But if Kyler wants to fire me, how can I escape? I finally understood that Kyler saw me as nothing more than a thorn in his side. Yumi. You're such a good employee, and he still fired you? He must be out of his mind. My best friend Sarah frowned and stood up for me. It's okay, I'm about to start a new job, but I might have to move to another city. I majored in antique restoration in college, and I've been living in this city just to be closer to Kyler. The only thing I'm really leaving behind is Sarah. I don't want you to leave. Wait until I get rich, and I'll take care of you. Sarah clung to my arm, acting spoiled. No sooner had she finished speaking than the landlord knocked on my door. He gave me 3 days to move out of the house. Because someone offered 10 times the rent for this rental house. I looked at the stack of compensation money in my hand and smiled helplessly. Yeah. Kynan made me disappear from this city, so how could I have the strength to struggle? Before leaving, I accompanied Sarah to her last class reunion. While going to the restroom, I ran into the little girl with the round face from Kyler's villa. She had her hair tied up in a bun and looked sweet and cute. She noticed me too and smiled and waved at me. Sister. But before she could take 2 steps, she tripped over a rag and fell to her knees with a thud. I instinctively reached out to help her up, but was suddenly kicked by a dark figure and sent crashing into the wall covered in wine bottles. The bottles shattered violently, and every part of my body throbbed with pain. How dare you touch her? Yumi, I think you've had enough of living. Kyler's eyes were filled with intense murderous intent, terrifying me so much that I trembled all over. I took deep breaths, the taste of blood filling my nostrils and the roof of my mouth. I endured the pain and watched helplessly as Kyler carried the frightened girl out of my sight. I rubbed the green glass shards scattered on the ground, looked at the countless wounds on my body, and fainted in a pool of blood. With the strong smell of disinfectant, every part of my body felt like it was being pierced by needles. Sarah was lying on my bedside, crying her eyes out. I picked up the mirror and looked at the deep scars on my face, feeling utterly devastated. I wanted to call out Sarah's name, but no sound came out of my throat, only the thick taste of blood. I could only push her away with my arms. But every movement was accompanied by excruciating pain. Kyler gave you another bank card and said there's $3,000 in it for your medical expenses. He told you not to come near and again, and definitely don't even think about hurting her. So that girl's name is Anne. Looking at the bank card Sarah handed me, I sneered and tossed it into the trash can with disdain. He used to be so broke. Now that he's got money, the first thing he does is come and humiliate me, who was willing to share both the good times and the bad with him. I find it hilarious. I didn't hesitate to call the police, retrieved the surveillance footage from outside the private room, and submitted it to the police. I was bedridden and unable to move, so after making a statement, I had to rely on Sarah to run around for me. I chose not to accept mediation and took him to court. Kyler argued that it was self-defense because I had touched his girlfriend. But the surveillance footage clearly shows that I was 5 meters away from Anne. Kyler was unable to refute this. In the end, the K family compensated me with 830,000 yuan, and Kyler was imprisoned and his record was entered into the archives. However, his family is so wealthy that they will likely secure his release on bail. This was the first breakup gift I gave him. After spending nearly a week in the hospital, although my wounds had not yet fully healed, I was able to get out of bed with some difficulty. I decided to leave Haicheng and go to Rongqing to look for a new job. Before taking off, I submitted 2 resumes, hoping to start working immediately so that I could support myself after settling down. The profession of antique restoration is very rare, And I had not even arrived yet when I received a text message saying that I had been accepted for an internship at the company. As soon as I landed, I received my internship assignment, so I rushed to the company with my suitcase to meet the boss. The boss said that this task is related to whether I, an intern, can be officially hired this month. Yumi? Why are you wearing a mask? Take it off. The boss in front of me frowned and flipped through my resume, then coldly ordered. I took a deep breath, mustered up my courage, and took off my mask, revealing 2 scars that had already scabbed over on my face. Put it back on. It's okay if you don't take it off. The boss's furrowed brows relaxed, and his eyes held a hint of complex emotion. He then began his self-introduction. My name is Julian, and I am your supervisor. You can just call me Julian. Julian. I bowed politely. I have purchased 2 tickets for tonight's flight. We will begin work the day after we arrive at our destination. Julian handed me a work badge from the table with my photo and name printed on it. Here, don't lose it. It's a hassle to get a replacement. I nodded. I immediately opened the software to check my destination and prepared some appropriate clothes. When I saw the destination on the screen, I almost stopped breathing. It was Haicheng, where I had flown to that morning. In other words, you're leaving today but coming back again? Wow. That's awesome. Sarah's voice message was filled with uncontrollable excitement. Oh. Not that great. It would be even better if Kyler were dead. After getting off the plane, Julian took me to the villa district that I knew so well. He pointed to the villa next door. The company provides accommodation and meals. You'll stay in A05, and I'll stay in A06. If you have any questions, just come find me. I stared blankly at A07 next to A06. Julian must have noticed my ulterior motive and coldly interrupted. You want to stay in that one? It's already taken. I know that, of course. There's also a little rose that he's been nurturing very well. I had no time to pay attention to other trivial matters. I just wanted to finish my work quickly and go back to the company, hoping not to encounter that annoying person again. I heard that the painting being restored this time was an antique, so I stayed up late to look at a lot of relevant information. The next morning, I was woken up by Julian's phone call at 7 o'clock. I had to go to work at 8. Okay, boss. I had stayed up too late last night, so my head was still foggy. I just mumbled a few words and hung up the phone. After washing up, I arrived at A06 on time. Besides Julian and me, there were a few unfamiliar faces. We exchanged pleasantries upon meeting. Although they constantly praised me for surpassing my teacher, I could see from their eyes that I was still a little green. Julian put on gloves and laid the badly damaged painting on the display panel, then pulled up the complete original painting from his tablet for us to compare. The painting was severely damaged, with only rough edges remaining around the corners. Although it wasn't that difficult to repair, it was quite troublesome. Sure enough, several other people offered several repair solutions, but no one was willing to take on the damaged painting. The restoration work was extremely tedious, and if I hadn't been so careful, the entire painting would have been ruined. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would jump out of my chest, and I finally understood why Julian said this was my chance. Those with high skills complain about low pay, while those with low skills lack the courage to take on the job. I happened to be stuck in the middle, neither highly skilled nor unskilled, just out of school and fearless. I'll give it a try. Amidst the skeptical glances of the crowd, I took the painting. After helping to organize the steps and materials, everyone else left. Although I only had 8 days, fortunately all the restoration materials were ready, so I put on gloves and quickly got to work. After working hard all morning, my back was sore and I was starving, only to discover that the company didn't provide breakfast. Didn't they say they provided 3 meals a day? Just as I was about to go to the study to ask the boss if I could set my own meal time, the villa door behind me opened, and a familiar voice came from inside. "Brother, is lunch ready?" It turned out that the K family had 2 sons, and Julian was Kyler's older brother. I stood there, my body stiff and unable to move. It wasn't until Julian came out of the study that I slowly turned around and stood beside him, feeling so embarrassed that I wanted to find a crack in the floor to crawl into. "Didn't I tell you not to come here for dinner?" Julian said coldly, with a hint of annoyance in his voice. "Who told your chef to cook so well? You won't even share it with me. Let your sister-in-law eat all the delicacies and nourish herself while she's pregnant. That would be so nice." Kyler's tone was teasing and mocking as he raised his eyebrows at Julian, completely oblivious to my presence beside him. "I didn't mean to take your company away from you. We're both men, so don't be so petty. Besides, you have another company in another city, so why are you bothering with me?" I've never seen Kyler so sharp-tongued before. In my impression, he's always been a bit insecure and hesitant when he speaks. Kyler walked over to Julian, patted him on the shoulder, glanced at me casually, and said sarcastically, "What's this? A new secretary? Not bad, huh?" "Shut up, Kyler." After Kyler reached out and took off my mask, the cynical expression on his face instantly turned cold. He raised his hand and slapped me so hard that I fell to the ground. I stood up to fight back, but because of the disparity in strength, I was kicked to the ground again. "That's all you're good for, you whore who only knows how to seduce others and climb the social ladder." I held back my tears, stood up, and wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. I couldn't understand why he hated me so much. Julian saw this and punched Kyler hard, leaving his lips slightly bruised. "He's my employee. Are you done yet?" He chuckled lightly, left a parting remark, and turned to leave the villa. "Julian, I'll see how you, an orphan with no power or influence, plan to compete with me for the inheritance." After Kyler left, Julian brought the medicine box and gently applied medicine to the corner of my mouth. "I'm sorry, he's always like this." I didn't respond to Julian's apology, but instead asked, "What inheritance rights?" "This is the K family's business. He's my ex-boyfriend, and I just don't want him to win. I don't care about inheritance rights. I only care about whether Kyler can die or not. After 23 years of being together, I just want to know how I ended up being hated so much by him." "So you want to kill me just because I'm an orphan? Or is it because you think my existence is a stain on your family?" Julian told me that he has a twin brother who was kidnapped when they were children, and his parents searched for him for a long time. After finding him, they decided to let Julian and Kyler compete fairly for the inheritance that should have belonged to Julian as compensation. But it's not fair at all. The most famous company in the K family was given to Kyler, and the marriage alliance was originally intended for Julian, who was in love with Anne. But when Kyler came back, he must have used some trick to make and increasingly annoyed with Julian. "Are they twins? You two don't look alike at all. Julian has a high nose bridge and double eyelids, while Kyler has a flat nose bridge and single eyelids. How can they be twins?" Julian pursed his lips and said that he had also had his doubts, but Kyler's arrival had brought a cheerful atmosphere to the household, and even his grandmother's illness had improved significantly. Naturally, no one pursued the matter any further. After Julian clearly refused, I didn't want to get involved in the K family's affairs either. Over the next few days, I worked diligently, hoping to repair the damaged painting. But it seems like the heavens are playing a cruel joke on me. The two villas, A05 and A06, were reclaimed by the K family, leaving Julian without any property in the city. With no other options, he had no choice but to stay in a hotel. "Julian, aren't you also a son of the K family? How could they not leave you even a villa?" Perhaps the question was too pointed. Julian's face darkened. Realizing that I had said something wrong, I quickly apologized to him. "I'm sorry, Julian." I spoke without thinking. Julian shook his head. "It's okay, just call me Julian." I looked up and quietly stared at Julian's face, suddenly feeling that he was particularly kind. The next few days at the hotel were very uncomfortable because there was a lot of dust, so I was extra careful to protect the paintings. Fortunately, Julian was very generous and never skimped on food. 7 days later, I handed the finished painting to Julian. Not bad. You have some talent in this area. Congratulations on becoming a full-time employee. The payment for this painting is 880,000 yuan. Julian didn't take a single cent, he transferred it all to my account. He said it was to encourage new employees. Actually, I had already noticed Julian's special treatment towards me. The day before I returned to the company, to celebrate landing my first deal, I treated Sarah to a big meal. I knew you were my best friend. Don't forget to take care of me once you strike it rich. Sarah is a real foodie. When she sees something delicious, she can't walk away. Seeing her look so satisfied makes me feel so happy. Sarah and I met at the orphanage. At that time, she was isolated by a group of people, and I was her first good friend. I never expected that this childhood friendship would last for 18 years. Just as Sarah and I were finishing our meal and getting ready to pay, Kyler walked in holding Anne's hand. At first, they just looked around, trying to find a table they liked. Until Kyler's gaze fell on me, his face was immediately clouded over. Waiter, reserve the entire place. Clear out all the irrelevant cats and dogs. Don't disturb me while I'm eating. Kyler's voice rose a few degrees, but his eyes remained fixed on me. The waiter noticed something was up and immediately walked over to Sarah and me and gestured for us to leave. Excuse me, ladies, please. Sarah and I exchanged glances and reluctantly got up to leave. As we passed Kyler, he sneered, "What kind of people come to eat here? How can you tell the difference between high and low class?" After we left, I couldn't help but think how much he deserved a slap. I chuckled, exactly. If you weren't the K family's outcast, you wouldn't even be able to hold your own against others. You. Kyler's face turned pale, then dark, and he probably didn't even feel like eating anymore. Back at the office, I was almost too busy to breathe. Every day was a grind, with work being the only thing on my mind. I never expected to see Kyler again in Julian's office. I was working on restoring an ancient painting and checking the documents in the president's office when a middle-aged woman with curly hair pushed open the door and walked in. When I looked up at her, she was also quietly looking at me. Our eyes met in midair. We stared at each other for a full minute without saying a word. Suddenly, my eyes felt watery, so I quickly looked down and blinked hard. "Hello, are you here to see Julian?" I broke the awkward silence. The middle-aged woman nodded slowly. "Julian will be right back. Please wait here. I'll go make you a cup of tea." To cover my embarrassment, I made an excuse to leave the office, but the woman called after me. "Wait. What's your name?" I bent down, took off the name tag around my neck, and handed it to the woman. "My name is Yumi." "Yumi, what a beautiful name." The woman looked at my name tag repeatedly, then reluctantly handed it back to me. I bowed to her and slowly exited the office. When Julian came back, I told him about it. But he said that no one had made an appointment for today, and there were no plans to meet with the client. He didn't know who had suddenly dropped in. I carried the freshly brewed tea into the office with him, hoping to find out what was going on, only to discover that Kyler had appeared beside the woman at some point, and they were chatting happily. I put my tea on the table and was about to leave the office when I suddenly heard a woman call my name. "Julian, I met Yumi for the first time and felt that she was very kind and familiar." The woman looked at me with a softer gaze. Julian stood beside her and smiled. "Mom, I told you have a good eye for people. She's the company's new intern. She's very talented and a very capable girl." "Mom? Is she Rita?" I looked at her a few more times and felt something strange. Unexpectedly, Kyler stood up and interrupted harshly, "Get out. How can a lowly orphan talk to my mom?" A fleeting look of panic crossed his face. Rita caught the key word, orphan? She walked over with a look of pity on her face and held my hand. "Then you can be my goddaughter. I liked you from the moment I first saw you. Just spend more time talking with your godmother." While I was still hesitating about whether to agree, someone else had already refused for me. No way. Perhaps realizing that he had lost his composure, Kyler composed himself again. Mom, she's an orphan. If people find out that you're her godmother, it'll be embarrassing. Rita's face immediately darkened. What does this have to do with you? Kyler gritted his teeth, clearly unwilling to accept defeat. But he had been humiliated and, unable to save face, he left the office in a hurry, saying he had something to do. Yumi, what do you think? Rita looked at me expectantly, waiting for my answer. This is indeed a shortcut to getting rich. All I have to do is nod my head, and I can live a life second only to Julian's. Auntie, I think we have a special connection. How about we have dinner together tonight? If you feel bored, you can come find me anytime to chat. I will also visit you often. Although she was rejected, Rita still smiled and immediately asked Julian to make dinner reservations. After Rita left, Julian told me that Rita had not informed him of her return to the country. He also said that he had not expected Kyler to show up here, having crossed the city. Rita has been living abroad for many years, and her husband takes care of everything at home. Moreover, Rita doesn't seem to like her new son very much, so his inheritance rights are saved. Why? Because my mother is the head of the family. In the evening, Julian and I arrived at the restaurant on time and ordered some of Rita's favorite dishes. Rita smiled happily when she saw me. Julian said that his mother was usually very strict and rarely so kind and friendly. I also felt very comfortable with Rita, even more relaxed than with Julian. After the meal, the restaurant saw that we were spending a lot and kindly offered us a dessert, a cup of mango milk pudding each. Sorry, my mother is allergic to mangoes. Hello, I'm allergic to mangoes. Julian and I said almost simultaneously. I couldn't help but freeze. The waiter had already replaced the mango milk pudding with strawberry milk pudding, and I hadn't even noticed. Rita smiled at me, and I saw a hint of affection in her eyes. After finishing our meal, Rita hurried back to the K family home to attend to some urgent matters, and Rita and I exchanged contact information. 7 days later, I showed Julian the restored ancient painting. Julian praised my rapid progress and said I was truly talented. He then gave me his spot for this year's study abroad program. Thank you, Julian. Going out to study not only allows you to gain a deeper understanding of the big shots circle, but also to participate in seminars, which is undoubtedly a big leap forward for me. In just half a month, I learned a lot and feel like I've made a lot of progress. At the same time, I also gained the opportunity to collaborate with top collectors, bringing significant benefits and recognition to the company. I returned to the company with my achievements, full of anticipation, hoping to receive Julian's praise. But I never expected that as soon as I opened the office door, I saw Kyler standing there with a furious expression on his face. It's you. You bitch. You stole my client. Kyler charged at me without saying a word, ready to throw a punch. I turned slightly to the side, and he bumped into the doorframe. He's not capable himself, yet he blames me? Who wouldn't want to work with a top collector? I worked hard to get this opportunity, but Kyler said I stole it. Kyler didn't listen to me at all. His face gradually turned red, and he became extremely violent. You bitch. You always ruin my plans. Today, I'm going to beat you to death. Fortunately, we broke up early. I never expected Kyler to have such a violent side. Just as Kyler was about to pounce, Julian quickly stepped in front of me. Kyler hadn't taken 2 steps before he was stopped by the bodyguards behind him. Kyler, let's go get a paternity test. Rita suddenly appeared at the office door, her tone stern. I've never seen a child who looks so unlike me. Kyler was immediately flustered. Mom, why do we need a paternity test? Didn't we already do one with Dad? And this is such a waste of time. Rita snorted coldly. I've already divorced that old man who leaked company secrets. I'm even investigating Julian, let alone you. Kyler's face suddenly turned extremely ugly. I don't get involved in the K family's affairs, and I just want to leave. But Julian insisted on pulling my arm and making me report our itinerary to him on the way. I couldn't argue with Julian, so I had no choice but to go with him. With Rita's financial resources, the results of the parentage test came back quickly. The results showed that the two were definitely related, in accordance with genetic laws. Rita was stunned. Kyler swallowed hard and his nervous expression vanished instantly. "Mom, I told you, I'm definitely your son, what else is there to say?" I looked at the name on the report and felt like something was stuck in my throat. I choked out, "That's mine." "Yours? So you're my child?" Rita's eyes filled with tears, and she was so excited she couldn't speak coherently. When Julian submitted the paternity test, he submitted mine along with his. Actually, our family only said that we had lost a child. Only my mother knew whether it was twins or a boy and a girl. I thought Julian was being a little strange. At the same time, I was also filled with a sense of hope, because Rita and I really had a lot in common. If she really was my mother, then I would no longer be an orphan. With a nervous heart, I endured the long wait and finally got the paternity test results. At the same time, Kyler's results had already been announced. He was not a member of the K family at all. Rita gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, that year. Kyler's father didn't know this and thought they were twins, which is why he rashly brought Kyler back. So how was the evidence from the previous paternity test forged? My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. A terrifying conclusion popped into my head. Did you already know I was a K family member? Did you use my hair for the paternity test? Kyler's hand holding the appraisal form trembled. So, this is why you kicked me out of that city? You're afraid I'll go back to the K family and take your place? Kyler's face gradually turned pale. Upon receiving a positive response, I could no longer hold back my tears, and my nose felt sour and unbearable. How could someone be so despicable? This was clearly my mother. Rita, standing beside me, had already cried herself into a tearful mess. "Yumi, you are my daughter. I finally found you." She looked at me from afar but didn't take a step forward. She was watching to see if I could accept this outcome. Although it was a bit abrupt, I had already prepared myself. Rita had a black birthmark on her wrist that was identical to mine. I hesitated for a long time before finally calling out, "Mom." Rita heard my thoughts and excitedly embraced me. Kyler took the opportunity to flee, and when I came to my senses, he was already gone from the hospital. Julian stood nearby, laughing so hard his mouth was wide open. He might have noticed that Julian and I looked somewhat alike, so he didn't get too excited. Luckily, I saw Yumi's resume and hired her. I'm so smart. But no one paid any attention to him. He could only awkwardly fiddle with his phone. Rita called a bunch of bodyguards and told them to keep me safe at all times and not let me get hurt again. This bracelet is our family heirloom, and so is this necklace. Rita pulled a beautiful gift box from the bodyguard's hands. Inside lay a jade green bracelet. Rita put it on my wrist, hugged me tightly, and kept murmuring, "Good girl, Mom came late." Due to Kainan's father's mismanagement of the company and the disclosure of confidential information, Rita chose to divorce him and leave him penniless. I haven't seen Kyler since that day. He disappeared without a trace, taking some of the K family's assets with him. But my mother didn't pursue these unlucky events. And the little Rose she had been nurturing, and was nowhere to be found. I never knew her identity from beginning to end. The K family heirloom has always been passed down to daughters, not sons. Although Julian pretends to be biased, he actually treats me better than my mother does. When Sarah found out that I was the missing daughter of the K family, her eyes widened like copper bells. "No way, Yumi. You're the K family's heiress. My goodness. What about all the hardships you endured before?" Sarah counted on her fingers, looking dazed. "You're not the Yumi I used to know anymore. You're worth billions now. I can't keep up with you anymore." I smiled and pinched her soft little face. "Even if I'm not a K family heiress, I can still afford to take care of you. This is all money I earned myself." Sarah suddenly jumped up, startled. "What's wrong?" I'm so stupid. I secretly said that you two look like a married couple. It turns out you're twins, and Sarah always seems to be a step behind. To make it up to me, my mother bought me a villa, transferred a company to my name, and gave me a bank card. I only asked for the villa, A01. I want to fight for the rest myself. My mother patted me on the shoulder and said that my positive and ambitious attitude reminded her of herself back in the day. I looked at the villa and felt a ripple of emotion welling up inside me. Kyler mocked me here for being an orphan with no identity or background, saying I wasn't good enough for him. Do people really change when they have these things? 3 months later, I saw Kyler looking distraught at the company entrance. After taking a portion of the K family's money, he started his own company, aiming to become president and boss, independent of anyone else. In the end, due to poor management, the company went bankrupt and was left with a mountain of debt. Yumi, I was truly wrong. I now realize that identity is not the barrier that prevents us from loving each other, only the heart is. If your heart is not settled, you will never find someone to spend the rest of your life with. I will stay by your side for the rest of my life and never change. Can you trust me one more time? Kyler is quite good at pretending to be wronged. If I were an onlooker, I might feel sorry for him and offer him some compassion. But I am the one involved, the one who has been treated harshly by him. I have never felt ashamed of being an orphan. I have never looked down on him. As soon as she finished speaking, Kyler's eyes immediately lit up with hope. I knew it, Yumi. You're the eldest daughter of the K family. You definitely have a big picture perspective and a bold spirit. I knew you would forgive me, Yumi. I really love you so much. I regret treating you that way before. From today on, I will treat you twice as well. Kyler's face lit up with a smile, and he tried to flatter me in every way, saying many sweet words and repeating promises he had already made. When did I say I forgave you? Kyler's smile froze on his face. After that, I continued to work at Julian's company. Due to frequent business trips and attending seminars, many big names in the industry had become familiar with me. Julian often joked, the company isn't popular, the president isn't popular, but the interns are. I've been working in the antique restoration industry for quite some time now, and I've become quite familiar with the business. I'm constantly busy with work, and every day, there's a steady stream of people coming in to have their paintings appraised. My body is exhausted from overwork, so my mother suggested that we go to Hawaii for a vacation to relax and unwind. I wanted to invite Sarah to go on a trip with me, but she didn't answer my calls. A moment later, she sent me a message, Sister, I'm in the middle of my career right now, so I can't go on vacation with you. He also added a link for me to watch the 9th episode. I clicked on the link and found it was a TV series, with Sarah playing the female lead's best friend. I know acting is her passion, and this could be a great opportunity for her to advance her career. Sarah, I'll be waiting for the day you become a big star. When that day comes, don't forget me, I'll be the first in line for your autograph. Everything is moving in a positive direction. Except for Kyler, who sticks to me like glue every day. He refuses to eat or drink and blocks my door, begging me to forgive him. I don't know how many times I had to hire bodyguards to chase him away, but he still wouldn't give up. Miss, Kyler is still hanging around the door. What should I do? I looked through the window and saw him still kneeling at the door. Now he seems sincere. When he kicked me in the face and disfigured me, he didn't even spare me a glance of pity. Put him in a sack, beat him up, and throw him somewhere far away so he won't bother me anymore. Just to be on the safe side, I'm planning to move in with my mother. That way, I won't have to go back and forth for family dinners anymore. As I reached the door, a middle-aged man with a weathered face stopped me. Hello, do you know Rita? Please give her this letter. Rita is my mother. When I took the envelope and handed it to my mother with a puzzled look, she casually tossed it into the trash can. Mom, who was that old man? My mother remained calm, raising her eyes slightly, the one at the door. My half-dead ex-husband. Don't mind him. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. A message popped up on her phone at the same time. Yumi, I really know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? I promise that if you ever find someone you like in the future, I'll never bother you again. Why can't we try again? We've thrown away more than 20 years of our lives. I looked at the message Kyler sent me and didn't even have the desire to read it. 3 years later, at the award ceremony, Sarah stood on stage, shining brightly. The audience cheered and applauded her. No one knew how hard she had worked to get there. I was truly proud of her. I got up to leave, but when I turned around, I saw Kyler's empty eyes and was startled. I had never seen him look so down and out before, and I felt like he had brought it on himself. As we left the venue, Kyler silently followed me all the way. Yumi, I can't protect you anymore. I snorted coldly, who needs your protection? Keep your pathetic affection to yourself. After I closed the car door, I saw Kyler standing motionless in the snow. 3 months after the company went public, I heard from my best friend that Kyler had passed away. Really? Sarah nodded vigorously, yes. Let's go. Hey. Where are you going? Let's go out for a big meal to celebrate. 3 days later, the trending topics were filled with my name and Sarah's.